What's going on, everybody? Lauren with the TMF podcast. Today, I want to talk a little bit about the scariest man on the planet, Francis Ngannou. Francis Ngannou, terrifying individual. Oh man, honestly, probably the nicest guy you'd ever meet. But in that octagon, the last person I'd ever want to meet. So the hype around Francis Ngannou right now is who's next. Now, going into the Stipe fight, I really wanted Francis to win. I like Stipe Miocic. I like him a lot. He is a phenomenal champion. As a heavyweight, you cannot not have respect for Stipe. The only reason I didn't want Stipe to win is because I want to see heavyweights fight for the title. And my fear was that Stipe, if he won, would take off another 6 or 8 months or, heal up and spend time with his family and go put out fires and rescue people. And no one get to fight for the title. And that's a bummer because the heavyweight division is full of some straight up killers right now in the UFC. So Francis winning the title was very exciting. Not much more of a deserving heavyweight. You follow Francis's entire career, which is very short, and where he came from. It's a phenomenal story. It's almost like Will Smith played him in a movie we haven't seen yet, or Jamie Foxx played him in a movie we haven't seen yet. Neither one of them are tall enough or big enough, but both of them could probably play him. But Francis Ngannou came out and said in an interview with Mike Tyson talking about fighting John Jones. Now, John Jones is a hell of an athlete. Great MMA fighter. Some people call him the GOAT. He's been around a long time. And John Jones at 250 pounds is a big dude. I just don't know if he can take a hit like from that man. Francis is terrifying, right? John Jones, beast. Will this fight happen? I'm really not sure. Let me adjust that a little bit. I'm not sure that the UFC is going to come up with enough money to pay him. We have new ownership in the UFC now, so maybe they'll come up with a deal that makes sense for Jones. At this point, you're turning down $10 million, stepping into Francis when you've got other guys who will fight him for probably 500 grand. Let him in there. Francis just wants to fight, and I just want to see Francis fight. So, who's it going to be? Is it going to be Stipe? Is it going to be Derek Lewis? Is it going to be John Jones? I think Derek Lewis and Ngannou is an exciting fight too. And you can give Derek Lewis you can underrate him, put it that way. The guy hits hard. He's nice as can be, but he hits like a freaking freight train. And I think he can take a pretty good hit. Being that Francis hits harder than anyone probably in the history of the UFC, maybe he can't take that kind of hit. But he can take a hit. And, the thing about those fights are they're not like super fast, they're not fast paced, they're not super exciting, but the anxiety that you get watching the heavyweights being one punch away, they're just one throw away from lights out. That's exciting. I love that. The fact that I know those fights can go. You put Francis Ngannou, Derek Lewis, Stipe Miocic, John Jones, put any of these guys in the octagon against one another, bro. I mean, it lights out at any moment. I don't care what the odds are. Either one of them can pull the trigger. So that's pretty interesting. Francis said here, I think he was his interview says that he was talking to Mike Tyson. Says he doesn't know if John Jones is as tough as Stipe in a fight. And that could be true. There's something to be said about fighters who don't take a lot of hits. So in MMA, you get callous to just being hit. And if you're a fighter that consistently goes into matches and doesn't get hit, and you're not used to getting hit, that's not the first guy you want to hit you. I promise you that. You might want to just go, just go into your training camp and just get some dudes off the street and come in and punch you in the face a few times because Francis is not the man for the job. That dude's there to freaking knock your head off. But Stipe took a hell of a hit from Miocic. He's okay. That's an interesting thought. And something else that he said here that I really like the idea of is they'd like to recreate the Rumble in the Jungle idea. That's something that Ngannou said that would be dope. It would be friggin' insane. That's what that would be. That would be crazy. Let's do whatever it takes to make that happen. Whether it's Stipe, and honestly, if Stipe doesn't retire, if he wants to stay active in the UFC, and at this point, if he wants to retire, respect that because dude had a hell of a career, arguably the best heavyweight champion ever in UFC history. So if he wants to check out, let him go retire. If he doesn't want to retire, he needs to come back and they need to run it back. We need a Stipe versus Ngannou Part 3. And what better place to do that than Rumble in the Jungle? That would be freaking nuts. If you want to put John Jones out there, fine. It'd be a huge fight because people like John Jones, people like Francis. I think in that fight, John Jones loses. I think John Jones loses, and I think they just chalk it up kind of like Izzy, Izzy lost. Well, I moved up, I went up, I trained, I lost. Big deal. He's still the greatest light heavyweight of all time. So you lose to a heavyweight, wasn't really some place that you're comfortable being in. No skin off your back, right? Reputation stays what it is. I think that's what would happen for John Jones. I think John Jones fights Francis, loses, and he steps out of heavyweight. He doesn't stay there. No way. John Jones wins in heavyweight against Ngannou. He definitely runs his mouth, possibly fights one more time in heavyweight. Maybe he just relinquishes the title, says, I came up here, I did this, now I'm done. I don't know. The heavyweight division is pretty, got some, like, stacked full of killers, man. Stacked full of killers. But that would be pretty awesome. Curious to know what you think. As far as other heavyweights in there, one of the guys I really like watching is the Russian. Oh my God, what is his name? Get up. Olink. I'm gonna butcher his name. It's Olink. Yeah, there we go. Olenek. There we go. I'll say it. I'm gonna butcher it. Alexei Olenek. I like watching that guy. I wasn't a fan at first, but the more I went to jiu-jitsu, the more I watched him just slowly dismantle guys on the mat, the more of a fan I became. Will he ever make it to the championship round? Probably not. But I do like watching him fight. I like watching Curtis Blades fight. I like all the heavyweights. Put out there. Like all of them. They're all great to watch. So let me know. Leave me a comment. Let me know what fight you'd like to see. What predictions you would have for that fight. I'm throwing mine out there. If Francis fights John Jones, Francis starts John Jones. I think Francis knocks the brakes off of John Jones. That's what I think. I think if Francis fights Stipe again, I think Francis beats Stipe. However, I'm gonna put it this way. I'm gonna give him the edge 60-40. I think if Stipe comes out and fights Francis again, the entire plan, the entire camp is going to be about chopping down Francis Ngannou. Stipe knows he rushed in, got knocked out. I don't think he's going to let that happen again. I think he very much so respects the power of Francis Ngannou. And Lord help us if that man really spends time on the ground learning, grappling, wrestling, jiu-jitsu, submissions. If Francis Ngannou takes any time out of his life to further his education down there, no one's going to stop that man. But if you get Stipe back in there and he starts getting some low calf kicks in, some leg kicks, starts chopping down the base of that tree, that is Francis Ngannou, you have a chance. I think anyone would. And if John Jones gets in there and plays that same card, maybe. But I think John Jones, I think his, what's the word I'm trying to think of? Arrogance, maybe, in the sport will put him in there to think, I'm going to knock him out. And I think the person to beat Francis Ngannou needs to go into that match and he needs to go into that fight and he needs to think, I'm just going to win. I'm just going to win. I'm going to do what it takes to win. If it takes 1 round or 5, we're going to adjust and we're going to do what it takes to win. And you're going to have patience to defeat him. And you're going to have patience and you're going to have to get the F out the way of whatever he's throwing. So I'd like to know, what are your predictions for that? We've got some other fights coming up, so I'm just going to kind of do them individually, ones that I'm excited for. And so we can get some comments on that. And then I'll do a part 2 to these with your comments and we can talk about it. And if you want to be a part of the podcast, we can do it via Zoom or Skype or whatever. I would love to have some fans on there, some fight fans or some fighters or just whoever wants to talk about it with me. I love talking about it. I enjoy talking with other people way more than myself, but I appreciate you listening. And if you want some swag, today's shirt of the day here, I've got my Joe Rogan podcast shirt on. I've got my bear shirt here. It is available on tmfapparelusa.com, along with other fight gear. I'm making fighter shirts and stuff. If you're a fighter yourself and want some cool swag for your upcoming amateur fight, hit me up. I make all kinds of cool stuff for the fighters. So till next time, we'll catch you later.